Take two. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Longley's Line Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Longley. Remember to give us a like, follow, subscribe on our Spotify, Instagram, iHeart. Wherever you guys find your podcast, we'll be there. Remember to like, follow, subscribe. Also, the beautiful studio space that we're in at Lightstyle Studio. Remember to give them a follow for any of your photography needs. Today, I have a very special guest, one that's normally behind the camera, Mr. Andrew Arguello.
Arguello. Yeah, it's a weird
I asked before, I still messed it up anyway.
No worries.
But Andrew, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we kind of dive into anything, go ahead and promote all of your social medias, wherever anybody can find you if you want anybody to follow you on anything.
I think our social media isn't necessarily super active, but you can watch our movies on Amazon, iTunes, Tubi. Those are kind of our three favorite platforms. iTunes and Tubi are our favorite because they pay us more compared to Amazon. If you're listening, Jeff Bezos,
and we know that you
make us a better deal. Yeah. Overall, that's where you can find us. Our two current movies that are out are Carpe Diem and Target List.
Okay, perfect. And what is the name for people to find?
Mad Wife Productions.
Mad Wife Production. And you kind of gave me a little rundown of why it's called Mad Wife Productions.
Yeah, it's a funny story. My wife is also our CFO. And so when we were coming up with the name, I noticed that, anytime I'm spending money, which in this industry is all the time, I'm always like, is this going to make my wife mad? And I was like, that's a really good name. So there's kind of multiple tiers to the way this name came to be, but that's probably like the most personable to me. My business partner, MJ Paulo, her husband is also we joke that he's the mad wife because he hates that we make movies, but I think he's starting to fall more in love with it. The movies are coming out and making money helps a lot for that aspect of not being like, what the are you doing?
Yeah, usually when you're just doing it for fun and no money, then it's like, why are you still doing this? And then you actually get a little bit of a paycheck, and it's like, all right,
it's becoming more of a career than a hobby, which is fantastic. So,
that's good that you're getting more traction. And kind of to turn back the clock a little bit, where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I grew up in Reno, Nevada. I went to high school at Galena, and my senior year, I started applying for programs with Disney, intern programs, and I got in. And so right out of high school, I moved to Florida, worked for Disney in Florida for a year, and then was like, oh my gosh, I cannot stand this humidity. Asked to transfer back to LA, did a few more years in LA, and then found myself back in Reno, mainly to marry my high school sweetheart. I was also kind of like, I had found my dream job, or at least what I thought was my dream job, and I thought I wanted to be an animator, and I finally had this job and quickly realized, like, I didn't know why, but it didn't feel right.
Sure.
And then luckily enough, my wife was in her master's program at UNR, and she needed a vlog shot in her master's program, so I shot that with, like, my old animation camera, and I was like, I knew instantly, like, this is what I wanted. It was like the Harry Potter moment where I was like,
this is the
one.
I
knew I wanted to make video content. So then I started this is a long answer because you only asked where I'm from. So then I started a commercial company, and I was super lucky enough that the commercial company was making enough money that I was able to find a passion for narrative film and fund the narrative filming. And so now we've been doing the narrative stuff for, I think we're like 2.5, 3 years, somewhere in there. And we've just been really fortunate, me and my business partner and my family, that we make supposedly decent movies. So
decent movies that people want to watch.
That was, I think, one of the weirdest things for me was like, oh, I'm making movies that, like, people want to watch, and they'll give me money to watch them. Like, that was the trippiest thing for me.
That's the thing I kind of think about too, because I've had a few different things, with the one that we shot together, where I promoted it when it came on Tubi. And my sister actually messaged me. She's like, oh, I'll give it a watch right now. And then I hear back from her about 10 minutes later. It's like, you didn't tell me that I'm going to need tissues with this thing.
That was a heartthrob of a movie. That
was a fun one.
Yeah, it pulls your strings for sure.
So to kind of turn back a little bit, So right before you go to Florida, out of high school, did you know what you wanted to do? Or you know that thing when you're a kid and you kind of think, this is what I'm going to do for a living.
Yeah.
Did you think throughout high school you were going to go and apply to the Disney program and kind of be, I'm going to be an animator.
Yeah.
I'm drawing Donald Duck right now.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I mean, kind of. I knew Disney was like a huge passion for me growing up and movie making. I didn't know that I was a decent drawer until like my probably freshman or junior year in high school, somewhere in there. And I took like an art class and I just kind of discovered like, oh, like I can draw pretty well. And when I actually submitted my portfolio to Disney, it wasn't a ton of cartoons, which most people think like you're drawing cartoons. It was actually what we in the industry call life drawing. So it's drawing people, going to the park and drawing birds. Yeah, it was a portfolio full of just like kind of the human body pretty much. And that's what got me into Disney was that portfolio.
That portfolio of just lifestyle sort of things.
Yeah, and I didn't know where that was going to take me. But the idea of working at Disney was obviously like, oh, yeah, you know.
Who doesn't love
I'm going to work at Disney.
Disney.
And yeah, pretty quickly, like they kind of categorized me. So I ended up as an intern in like the storyboard department.
Okay.
So I wasn't necessarily, I say animation as like the broad term because people understand that.
Sure.
But really it was stilled images, you know, like little placard cards. And
Yeah, if you've ever seen
animatic.
a storyboard, it kind of tells every scene by scene.
Yep.
And while you're there, are you working on anything?
My first day at Disney, I remember sitting down at this table and they asked us to like draw a teddy bear sitting in a room. And I remember sketching like Pooh Bear, and the guy next to me was drawing this like completely badass teddy bear sitting in a room. And he's like 18. I guess I was 18 at the time, but like I felt like he was younger than me. And I like, remember looking over and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not that good at this. So like the level of talent there was just insane. And it was cool that I was good enough to get in, but I also quickly realized, one, I didn't have a passion for it, and two, like I wasn't that good at it.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a growth process for me, and like just being like, wow, like I kind of was this cocky kid from Reno that was this awesome artist.
Yeah.
And then I got humbled really quick, which was probably really good for me overall.
Which is sometimes what you need, especially when it's something that you think, well, I'm hot shit. I can do this.
Yeah, no,
it'll be fine. And then you kind of get humbled by the child that's next to you that's actually the same age. And you're like, oh.
I was like, oh, yeah,
this is not me.
In the moment it stung, but like looking back at it, it was one of my like defining moments for sure.
And then so you're there, you're sketching, you know, you're working with Disney, which is kind of a big milestone to begin with, but it's not what you want to do. Then when you go back to LA, you're still with Disney, right? Or do you go to, not back to LA, but you go
from
to LA?
Florida to LA. Yeah.
And are you still sort of dabbling with Disney, or
it was so all of my time in LA was with Disney. By the time I got to LA, I was working in the parks. I was working in Burbank kind of rarely. And I was also going to school in Valencia. So I was kind of, it was this wild drive of 45 to 60 miles that in LA traffic was just absolutely awful.
Yeah, goes from an hour to 2.
There was a day where I left 4 hours early for a shift and I was 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
And so like that was definitely creating a burnout very quickly. And then it was like, I saw that I wasn't very good on the art side. I saw this push from my management team where I was going to start going towards like management and not art because I was better at working with people than working with utensils of art. And so like my burnout rate just hit really high really quick. And then I had this love of my life here that I was like, you know, this is way more where I want to be than Disney.
So then you realize that, well, maybe this LA drawing life isn't for me. When you get back and while she's working on her master's and everything, what do you kind of do to fill time? Are you still drawing while you're here? Do you decide, I'll be a waiter for a little while? Like kind of what do you decide to do?
I was definitely in a little bit of an identity crisis because I had spent so much of my life kind of working towards this goal, getting the goal, and then realizing it wasn't right. So I was like, well, what else do I like? So a lot of my friends at the time who worked at Disney also had part-time jobs at Starbucks.
Sure.
So like I got a job at Starbucks. That was awful. I don't drink coffee, so that was like I was like that was dumb.
It's like,
so I worked there for like a month,
drink
and
beer
I
and
was
you're a bartender.
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. This isn't working for me. And then I was like, well, I really enjoy, like firearms. I grew up a lot, doing target practice with my grandpa. And so I got into the gun industry for a while where I learned how to be an instructor, and I sold firearms at Shields for probably a year, just over a year. And then at that time, that's when I had that aha moment with the camera where I was like, oh, filming's where it's at. And so I quit Shields, started the commercial company, and then at the same time, there's a local nonprofit in town, Koinonia Foster Homes, that was needing help with marketing. So they kind of became my first, I call them a retainer client, like a built-in client.
Yeah.
So I realized there was this opportunity where I could go to these companies and be like, whoa, you don't want to have to pay an employee because that costs a lot. You don't have to worry about insurance. So I went around town and I cold called companies and I was like, hey, like I do videos. Can I make videos for you? You pay me X amount per year. I'll pay, I'll make you X amount of content per year. And what that allowed me to do was know that my base costs were covered so that I could then invest everything extra right back into the business. And that's how I was able to grow so quickly.
That makes sense. So even kind of that middle ground in between while you're still figuring things out, she asks you to film for her.
I think I offered. I don't think she asked.
You're just kind of like, you need some film,
I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
So you go, let me do this for you. And you realize, oh, I like this. I want to do this. What steps did you take before you even started that commercial? Was it just, I like doing this, let's make it a business? Or did you go, you know what? I know Bill over there needs something filmed. Let me film something for him first. And then once you got a little more of a taste of it, then you went, yep, I'm starting a business.
I dove head first. I knew that the second I filmed that and edited it, that's how I wanted to spend the rest of my career. So I officially got my business license probably 2 weeks later and just started making cold calls until people were willing to pay me. And like I look back at some of those early commercials and they were awful. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, you're still learning.
And so yeah, like I was fortunate that I had already had a camera and some stuff for the animation. And they were not necessarily the highest quality cameras. And so that was the first thing I did was I took out a business loan and bought a little bit nicer of a camera and some gear, and yeah, just the cold calls paid off. Like, I don't know if that would even work in today's market with like the way business is, because business is so tough these days. But yeah, I just got very fortunate. I landed in a room with some billion-dollar companies that were just like, oh, that's exactly what we need. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, like
you got it.
I was
right
so in
now.
over my head when I hope they're not watching this. But at the time,
No,
and I still do commercials for them now, and it's fun to watch my progression with them of like the first commercial I did with them versus 5 years later.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching, it's not you.
Yeah.
So don't even think about it.
We won't say names.
But I think about it the same way because how we kind of talked beforehand where you were like, oh, with Frey Ranch, it's the same sort of thing that I have done my entire like modeling and acting career, and then now doing the podcast stuff where if there's something that I want, nobody just hands it over.
Right.
And, it's like with acting, there's 30, 40, 50, however many people that are going out for parts and trying to do things. So when you see something else, you say, hey, mate, I can do this. Would you like me to be a part of it? Or when I do modeling stuff, if I see a photographer, I'll reach out to them and be like, hey, would you like to do a shoot sometime?
Yeah.
And then if for whatever reason it does work out, then I will promote them. They'll promote me. Maybe somebody else will see it, and then we'll go from there. And like right now, I'm reaching out to companies that are in the area and being like, hey, this is my podcast.
Yeah.
Would you like to be on it? And we're still waiting for you guys.
Yeah. Frey Ranch, give us a call.
Yeah. So it's the same kind. I think kind of with cold calling, as much as it sucks, you kind of have to do it. And I think it comes with the entertainment industry that
Yeah.
we're in general, because I heard it one time on something I was listening to where you're going to go out for 1,000 things and you're going to get 1,000 no's. And you're going to keep going, and you keep doing it, and it kind of gives you that tough skin to be like, well, somebody's going to want to take me up on this, and I know they will. And it deters your confidence as it keeps going on.
Yeah.
But then you hit that certain point when somebody says yes, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You say yes, and then you give it your all. And
Yeah.
you're up until, 3 a.m, like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah. I think there's, the entertainment industry is just a tough industry. And I
Yeah.
think there's really, people always ask me, because we do like internships with UNR and stuff. They always ask, like, how can I be a director? And everyone wants to be a director or cinematographer. And I'm like, there is only one way to guarantee that you'll be hired as a director. And that is to make your own movie and hire yourself and say that I am the director.
Yeah.
And so there's really there's two trains of thought. And I believe that if you just go out there head first, believe in yourself, and it will come.
Yeah.
You do good work and good things will come. And it's a grind and it's hard, especially in this industry. But yeah, building relationships is huge in this industry. And you don't even realize you're building them. Like when you were on set with us for whatever the heck that name of the movie was.
Tree of Mine.
Tree of Mine, yeah. When you were on set with Tree of Mine, I wasn't like, in a year, this guy's going to be like, hey, come be on my podcast, right? But we built a friendship and a connection and I guess a business partnership. So just the grind is out there and you just got to keep going for it.
Yeah, you really can't ever stop.
No,
Until-
it doesn't ever stop either.
No.
We were talking about Jeremy. Even at Jeremy Renner's level, there's still a grind. There's still more to achieve, and that's what I love working about with him. Is you can tell that desire and that grind is still there. He's always pushing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the top celebrities that I have been fortunate to work with, they all have that same push, that same grind and determination of just, keep going. And most people think they became overnight successes. And one of my favorite quotes is, we were an overnight success 30 years in the making.
Yeah.
And that's just so true.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense too when it comes down to how you said you want to call yourself a director. You have to be a director.
Yeah.
And you have to do stuff like that. I feel it's the same with, those big name actors, Jeremy Renner, who, as you said, he kind of constantly keeps working. And he is one of the biggest name actors that's out there.
Yeah.
But if you ask him, without knowing him or anything, but you would assume that he's like, well, I'm still working.
Yeah.
So I guess you could call me an actor, because that's how I've always thought about it. I don't consider myself model, actor, podcaster, anything, because I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to get better, and you're still trying to move forward and always pushing that grind forward and forward. And Jeremy Renner, if you're listening, we know that you are. We'll get you. But so you start your company. You've kind of got it going. What made you think, I don't want to do commercials, I want to now do movies? Or was that kind of always, as soon as it got started, it goes, commercials are fine. How a lot of photographers kind of go, weddings, they pay the bills, they're fine. But I'd like to take this I'd like to do this kind of shoot or something. When did you kind of think, now I want to transition into this?
Yeah, I knew that I loved being behind a camera and filming things, and I knew I loved telling stories from the animation days.
Yeah.
Being in Reno at the time, this was 2013, 14, somewhere in there. I didn't think that there was an avenue to make movies, not in LA or Georgia or Toronto. Yeah. To me, coming from the Disney world, I guess I almost had blinders on, because I'm like, production only exists at this incredibly high level. I didn't realize the indie level is something that exists. So the first thing that really kind of opened my eyes to it was I ended up on a set, 10 Syllables with Emily Skyle.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think I'd done like a commercial for her comedy troupe, and she was like, "Hey, like, do you want to come hang out on set with us? You know, we're doing this short film. You know, you can be a PA." And I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah, let's do it."
Why not?
And, you know, that was like a 2 or 3 weekend shoot or something like that. And by the end of the shoot, I think I had worked my way up to like assistant director. So that, you know, seeing all those people on set, crew and cast, I was like, there's a need, there's a want in Reno and a community here that I think was like emerging at the time. And I think that had existed before me, but you know, this really opened my eyes to that it also existed and that I could, you know, tap into this resource that is the Reno art community. And so that was really what lit the fire. And then from there, you know, I met some actors who were like, well, I have scripts. And I was like, well, I have a camera. And I was like, let's just go make like something for funsies.
Yeah.
And so that turned into my first short film, and then my second, my third, and my fourth. And then by the end of my fourth one, I met my business partner, MJ Paulo, on one. And she was like, well, you know, I have some money and some ideas, and I'm a writer. I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. And that eventually became our first feature film, Carpe Diem. And so now it's like, okay, well, we've moved past short films. And we still do them. It's still actually a huge part of our business is proof of concepts and short films. And it's great because it exercises that muscle for everyone in the community. And then now it's like, okay, well, now we're making features, and these full-length feature films are, the first one is doing well. Our second one, like we're just, MJ and I both have this belief of just, you're going headlong into this. Like you're going for it. We do our second one and it's even more popular. And now we've finished filming our third one, and it's in post-production, and our fourth one is in pre-production. And we have 6 more on the docket. And now we're being approached. I think that's the craziest part, is that, you know, companies like Fox and Tubi are coming to us and saying, hey, like, we like what you're doing. Can you do that for us? And so we have this kind of fun little crossroads happening where the Reno community is growing, Madwife Productions is growing, outside studios want to grow. I want to build a studio. That's something that's really important to me, where, you know, when renovations came to town, it was, you know, they called me up and they're like, well, we need, you know, this huge list of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I can provide all of my stuff. And they're like, great, that's so great, but we still need more. And I'm like, yeah, you guys need a lot of stuff. And that really opened up this idea for me of like, well, Reno needs a rental house. It needs a sound stage. It needs a studio. It needs a facility for people to train, actors to train, and crew to train, and learn the industry standards, because we have all these people, but it still feels a little scattered, and it's feeling less scattered. Even just like in the last 6 months, it's really cool to see production companies kind of popping up and making their own short films. So for me, it's really exciting to see Reno growing, the community growing, and we are getting on the radar of big time producers. And like, you know, Jeremy's a huge one for us, where he wants to help grow and make Reno thrive, and he loves it here. He loves our community. I don't mean to speak for him, but
we've both done it. So
I mean, these are conversations I've had with, you know, him, not so much him, but people close to him. You know, so it's just really an exciting time. We have all these things, and I'm just so excited to see like what's next. And I mean, at bare minimum, at least Madwife is going to be making stuff. And if that's the highlight of my career, I feel already pretty successful in that. So I'm excited. I'm just excited for that. But all this other stuff is just, it's a whirlwind. My days have changed. Like having phone calls with just, you know, famous actors and being like, oh, what are we going to do? Okay. Like, it's just wild. It's super wild. I didn't expect it to, you know, 5 years, or I guess whenever we shot 10 Syllables, somewhere between 3 and 5 years ago, I was like, I did not expect, you know, 5 years later to be where we're at now. So it's cool. Rock on, Reno. You're killing it.
It goes back to what you said about the overnight success. You know, it's been 30 years in the making. It's the same kind of thing. As soon as you start figuring out, well, I'm going to be doing this. Now you're really starting to gain some traction, and it's starting to get noticed from everybody else. And to kind of jump back a little, so 10 Syllables is your first short film. that you do, right?
First,
for
first
with
Shindy
Mad
Ord
Wives.
film, yeah. And, say that again. Last part you said.
With Mad Wives.
No, that wasn't Mad Wife. No,
Oh, it wasn't?
No,
It was
yeah,
just-
that came probably a year or so later. No, back then I was just me, a little freelancer.
Okay.
I had done like a little freelance commercial with Emily, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come hang out with us?"
Gotcha. And then that,
that sparked. I was like, "Oh, like holy crap! There's a community here."
Yeah.
And so yeah, I really thank Emily for tapping into that resource, and she's done a great job over the years, building Cordillera Film Festival and just also helping get our community name out there. It's cool for me, like, we kind of have our different streams. Like hers has really been the film festival. For me, it's been the films. So
the films to get in the film festival.
yeah. And ironically, we haven't done a whole lot of film festivals because we go straight to distribution.
Yeah.
But some of the short films have and stuff. So, but yeah, it's just cool to see. And like even just in the last few months, like Teensy Leader Productions, they did a really nice short film. I can't wait to see. Another friend of mine, Greg Kleino, and his buddy Matt just finished kind of a feature film, like some buddy. Like it was a long process for them, but like an homage to I think Friday the 13th.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but yeah, like they did a feature, and I think even like some other production companies in town have done some short films. So it's growing. Like it's so cool, and like from your aspect of like being an actor, like. I'm sure it feels even more exciting because now they're like, you talk about those 1,000 calls, those 1,000 auditions. Like now it's, so many auditions, those 1,000 can come so quickly. And yeah, those first 1,000 might all be no's, but those are the learning process to the next 1,000. And like when I was early in my animation school, they were like, your first 300,000 drawings are going to suck. Luckily, I don't have to make 300,000 films before I make a good one. I hope. I think I've already made a couple good ones, but we'll see. But yeah, it's so exciting. I'm so excited to see just what everyone in Reno is doing and how we're just really supporting each other, and it's just a great little community.
Yeah, it's really been a hot spot that hasn't been touched.
Yeah,
where it's like everybody kind of thinks of Reno as if they're from out of town. Oh, you mean Vegas?
Yeah, everyone thinks we're like an hour from Vegas.
Yeah,
we're 8 hours.
I
from
used
Vegas.
to work at Harris Casino.
Yeah.
And we would bring people in from out of town, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I think we'll just spend a day trip out in Vegas." I was like, "No, you're not.
No, unless you have a jet.
That's
no, you're not.
8 hours away if you want to get another flight as soon as you got back in here."
Yeah, when I worked in LA, so many people were, "Oh, you're from Reno. Like, it must be nice that you can like drive home for the weekend. It's just like 3 hours away." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You have no idea where Reno is."
It's not even close. Look at a map. We get snow.
Yeah. This year, a ton of snow.
We got a whole lot of snow this year. And to go back kind of a little bit in between there, do you have any, not to say like particularly with actors or anything, but do you have any stories from some of your kind of first productions that stick out to you that made you kind of think, this is a little bit different than I thought? Or that kind of, you think back to stories of your acting days, like when you said you were a PA with Emily and then you ended up becoming, assistant director.
Yeah.
I was a PA on a movie that kind of came around here, and the dad from Ferris Bueller was there.
Oh yeah, was that Mustang?
Yeah, no, it was before Mustang.
Oh, before
Mustang. Same
okay.
people, but it was before Mustang. And I was just one of the PAs kind of hanging out for the day because I didn't have to work. They're like, "Oh, we need PAs." So I'm driving a truck around all out in the desert. And then I go and pick them up, and the truck needed to stay. So then we needed to walk. So we're walking back, and I'm just kind of talking to him like, "So how's it going?" He goes, "Hey, it's fine." I was like, "Oh yeah, you doing good? The movies you've done, which has kind of been your favorite?" He's like, "Ferris Bueller." Definitely. We, just kind of BSing about things. So do you have any stories of kind of those either early days or recent or that kind of stick out to you?
I think for me, since I did start as a PA and kind of work my way up into this leadership role and onto like a director and a DP, and being on all levels of production valued sets, like budget wise, one thing that really has stuck with me and is really important to me is, as a production lead now, is to make sure that everyone is thought of and cared for. Our industry, unfortunately, can become inadvertently a little toxic because we don't have much money. We're all just trying to get the shot. And sometimes it's easy to forget and sacrifice the people at all the different levels. So that's something that's really important to me at Madwife Productions, is that, you know, everyone has a voice, everyone is cared for mentally and physically. Like mentally is a huge one that I think is often overlooked. And so it wasn't necessarily one specific event, but every set I was on, I was like, oh, you know, like this could be done a little bit differently. Not necessarily better or worse, but just a little bit differently. And that was one of the huge ones, was, you know, working 17-hour days. For me, I mean, mentally and physically, that's really tough. But also you see the production value go down because the crew's getting tired and the cast is getting tired. So it was really important for us to be like, well, let's try to stick as close to 10 days as possible, or 10-hour days as possible. And sometimes it's not doable. It's really not. But that's something that's just really important to me. And so, it was, and it's all levels of sets, like, you know, $100 million sets all the way down to free. So
you get those long days,
very
like
long,
as you said, and then you're looking at it from the directorial kind of production standpoint, where you're like, well, we need to get this shot, we've got to do this, and then you know, Greg, who's been on the sets too, he's there in the background helping with sound or doing this, or he's coming in and he's got to shoot something too, and he's trying to maintain that energy because nobody it's
can't
a lot
function that long.
It's a real like behind baseball kind of thing where you don't realize how much goes into the actual production of things.
People have no idea
until you're actually a part of it. I was talking with one of my coworkers last week, and as we're sitting there doing stuff, we hurry up and get it finished, and then we have to wait until something's done. And we have to wait for a phone call. We've got to wait for this. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. And he just kind of gives me this look like, what do you mean? It's like, oh, in acting, kind of, you hurry up.
You got to get there. You got to get there. You get the shot. Okay, now you're waiting for 2 hours.
You got to wait.
Yeah, it's and there's limitations, right? Like budget's usually the biggest one. It's like, oh, you're renting a house. Well, we can only have this house we can only afford a day. So it's like, well, maybe we need to make that day 24 hours. And you're like, sometimes you have to. That is the truth. And sometimes you're like, well, maybe you go to the crew and say, would you rather have a pay cut or would you rather work 24 hours? And most of the time, especially with our crew, they're like, well, we would just rather get paid less.
We'll just be
because we love being on set anyway. It's actually, I think, going back to your earlier question, one of the most interesting things about finishing a movie, I joke that it's a trauma bond with everyone on set, but it's real. And you get back home after living on set for a month, and it's almost kind of depressing. It's like a shock to the system to be on set going 100%, 100 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you're like at home and it's quiet, and not everything's needs everything down right now, and you miss everyone so much because this trauma bond that you build is so intense. So that's always a really interesting thing. Lucky for me, I also edit most of our stuff, so I can continue to live on set with my post-production. But
you see everybody there. It's like, it's like
which is also wild too, is like you have your, like with actors, you have your relationship directing them, and a lot of actors don't necessarily come out of character. When you call cut, they want to stay somewhat in that core character, and so the person that I become so familiar with versus who that person really is often gets very blurry.
Is their character.
And you'll like, you know, all the films I've done this on, especially the features, it really happens, but it's like, oh, like, you know, you meet this person, they're in this character, even when they're not rolling, there's still like an essence of that, and then you'll like see them a year later at the premiere, and you remember them as this one person with a little bit of that character bled into them, and then you're like, oh, that's right, like you're not like that at all. Like, wow.
It's like the Hugh Jackman thing where he plays Wolverine and his kid's like, that's not my dad. He sings and dances. What are you talking about?
Exactly. And it's, I mean, actors deal with that all the time. Like, people think that their character is what they are like in real life, which is often not true. Like, but yeah, even for us on set, it kind of happens too, where you're like, oh,
you can't help it. That's what you're saying and what you need to portray on camera. So you kind of get used to that.
Between that and like the trauma bond you build with the crew and cast, the movies can really mess with your head. Because you're living in almost a different world.
Especially those big productions too, where they take
months,
a year,
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
to get everything finished. That's why everybody gets so wrapped up into everything that they're doing. And you hear actors talk, like I'll listen to different podcasts with actors on them, and they're like, oh yeah, and we were with so-and-so for this long, and oh yeah, we're going out to golf next week, because they became friends because they were hanging out for so long.
That's why so many actors get married.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Austin Butler, that was a funny story to me. He got a lot of crap for having like the Elvis accent at the Oscars. And I was like, I don't blame him one bit. Like that dude had to hold that character for, I think they shot that over like 3 years or something crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a long time to be a method actor. Like, of course he's going to retain that accent for
Daniel
a while.
Day-Lewis is going to come walking out looking like Lincoln.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You see the same thing.
Yeah, he is Lincoln at this point.
He really is.
So, it's people have no idea how much work we put into making movies.
Yeah.
It is exhaustive. It is so much fun. And it's a lot of effing work. And it's expensive. It's so expensive. But yeah, it's so worth it.
Yeah. And once you see that final product, you're like, this is exactly why I was doing this.
We have internships with the high schools and colleges in the local area. And it's amazing how many interns will come to set. They'll do one day on set, and then we never hear from them again. Because they're like, this is not, I thought I was going to be sitting in the director's chair telling people what to do. I'm like, nope, you're going to be carrying heavy ass sandbags around, sweating your ass off.
You're getting water for these people. You're helping
and then
out.
you'll work your way up. But yeah, movie, like it's tough. And again, it's like even on set, it's a grind to like work your way up. And it's, and then the ones who like, I heard this quote from, she was a costumer, I think on Marvel movie. It was like one of the Marvel movies. It was like, don't do this unless you have to.
Yeah.
And that is so true. Like I think about like, what would I do if Mad Wife failed and I couldn't make movies? I literally cannot envision that. I don't know. Like, I guess I would just live under a bridge with my camera, and as people walk by, I'd be like, you want to make a movie?
Just get
Let's
over here.
make a movie.
I got the perfect role for you. Get over here.
I just cannot imagine not being a movie maker at this point. It is who I am, and it's who I think I'll always be. It's so ingrained in me, and I from that first Harry Potter wand camera moment, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
No, I get that completely. From the other standpoint from it, like I don't do it as often as I would like, only because exactly like I said, you get a bunch of no's. So I have to have a day job and do what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I do my day job, and then the second I get an email or a text or something like, hey, can you audition for this? There's this to audition for. Can you do this? I'm like, yes, I can.
Yes. Yeah.
Here it goes. Oh, that's on a Tuesday at 11.
Yeah.
Let's see if I get the part first, and then I have to go to my day job and do everything. So it's a tough grind that most people don't think about until somebody kind of pulls back the curtain and you see, oh, these people have to work hard. And then you hear about like Michael Keaton. He slept in his car right before he got Batman. Because this is what he was doing, and he needed to.
Yeah, there are no, I mean, there's so few of them, but like overnight success, like true overnight success is where, I auditioned for my first thing and I got the Hunger Games. Like that, it just doesn't happen. It's a lot of luck. It's a lot of being in the right place at the right time,
It's
building relationships with the right
opportunity.
people. Yeah, it's, and like I said, I kind of think I started at the worst case scenario where it's like, man, if nobody's hiring you, nobody's calling you, just do it yourself. Just make a movie. And if it sucks, that's okay. Like, go make another one. Learn why the first one sucked and just get a little bit better each time. And like, you'll get there. Like, keep going.
Yeah. And so now you're really gaining traction with everything. Like how you said, the second feature film just came out. You're working on the third. You've got the fourth, fifth, sixth, all of that. This may be kind of a general question, but what's next for you? Like, what are you excited about that you can talk about? Like, what are you working on now that you can kind of divulge, or that you're really, we're cooking with this right now? Like, kind of what's next for you? You know, as general as it is.
I think I'll look back at this video in like a year and be like, wow, that's what I was
that
looking
was
forward
next?
to.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've been telling a lot of people in my circle lately, like kind of this is, I'm in a weird waiting game where I have a portfolio that I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
I have gained the attention of a lot of different people at a lot of different levels. So what's guaranteed to be next is our next movie. You know, we have the funding, we have, we're close to doing casting calls and starting that process. I know that our third movie that's in post-production is coming out. For our features from now on, at least for now, the plan is that we're going to self-distribute. We've seen a lot of success with that so far, and so I'm taking a lot of those skills I did and I got from making commercials and marketing, and I'm taking those skills to start marketing our own movies. We're in talks with movie theater right now to have our movie be like a national movie theater release. You know, who knows? Maybe. Like I said, we've been working with some celebrities in town that, who knows? Like if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it
Still
does,
cool
great. Like
that it did,
So yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to. So many things and so many things in this industry are like, when you're an actor, a lot of times it's like a no. At my level, a lot of things are like maybes. You know, like I have a lot of meetings every day. Like I just had a meeting with an actor from Stranger Things. He has a feature film he wants us to produce, and I'm like, that's great. Like, let's do it, man. And now it's like, well, where do we get the money? And I have another relatively famous actor, same story. Like, oh, I have this thing. Like, we're raising money for it. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what the future holds. It does look promising. We have a really fun feature that MJ wrote and that I just think is really cool. It's kind of is a grass really greener on the other side story. So if you saw our first movie, Carpe Diem, it's kind of this really dark comedy. If you saw our second feature, Target List, it's more of a family-friendly, less dark, more fun comedy with a tagline that sounds pretty dark. This one's kind of right in the middle, where it's still dark and kind of funny, but it's not so dark you're like, oh gosh. And so I'm really excited for it. And we're just in the process of kind of raising funds and seeing what kind of level actor that we can acquire for it, or who wants to make it with us. So,
what big name you can get attached.
And for me, like whenever we do casting, a huge part of it is finding an actor who just really wants it. You know, not like I won't say names. There's some actors that you can hire that are like pretty affordable, and I'm like, yeah, they just show up for the paycheck. Like I don't want to work with that. Like, and maybe someday I will, but that's not necessarily what I want to work with. I want to work with that actor who I don't care really where they're at in their career, but they're just like so passionate about the project as I am, and it makes it so fun. Like that's probably one of the things I love about my job is it's definitely stressful, but it's just so fun. Like there's so many great people, and because we're freelance, we kind of get to choose the great people we work with. So that's always really cool. But yeah, it's kind of a big answer, but
it was a big question. So it kind of works out.
We got a lot coming. Or in a year, I'll be sleeping under the underpass with my camera asking people to make a movie with me. So we'll see. I don't know.
And then when you see me walking by and I say, no, thank you.
You'll be like, sorry, I'm too big. I'll be like, damn it.
Just excuse me. I have to go to my audition.
It's exciting time, and also just a time of kind of waiting to see what happens. So
a lot of hurry up and wait.
It is. Exactly.
Waiting to see what happens. Well, Andrew, I want to say thank you again for coming in. I'm glad we were able to make this happen, and you got to kind of tell your story here with us. Before I do let you go ahead and promote your social medias or any movies or anything you'd like for everyone to follow and see.
So you can check out Madwife Productions. You can check out our website, which has all the links to whatever films are available at that time. Constantly changing, so I don't necessarily want to say any platforms, but Target List is available in some places now. Check out our website. And Carpe Diem is available on almost all major streamers. So go buy, rent, watch, enjoy, leave a comment or a review on, like, go to IMDb, leave us a review. We love to hear what you think, and be honest. Like I love hearing what people genuinely think, so that we can improve.
Only way you can get better is hearing what you need
what
to
I
hear.
can do to get better. So go check us out, madwifeproductions.com.
All right, you guys heard him. Check out Madwife Productions. Remember to like, follow, subscribe. Everything we have here, all of the information will be in the bio, and we'll see you guys next week.